I see some people replacing things and I'm kind of like, what are you doing? And that what are you doing comes from me trying to do it. I'm a little bit less gung-ho than I was. 6 months ago, I was going nuts, man. I wanted to license Riverside and I was like, for my specific use case, which we're filming this on, and they wouldn't allow for specific things. So I'm like, all right, let's try to build my own media server. Let's replace Riverside. And that was a pretty big task. It's also everything. It's like Asana, like I'm using that as a list structure. I don't need that anymore. Let's build a version of Asana that works for me. My financing, like I was on bench.co for my bookkeeping and it was just so redundant. And I'm like, LLMs could very easily index things. Let's build a service called Finch that handles that. What's also great about that process is you understand what really good and mature infrastructure is. And the truth is, there's a big distinction between building something for myself and the people that I work with, which isn't a big infrastructure play, than trying to like replace a SaaS company, like deploying that across tens of thousands or hundreds of users. So I found it to be both really positive and also dangerous.
Okay, so like we were just talking about how you like to kill your SaaS providers, like the SaaS products that you have been paying for years, you only use a couple features for, or sometimes you're like, hey, let me see if I can build this myself. Can you talk about like the most recent product that you've attempted to vibe code or build yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such an interesting thing because like your company is based on all these services. And like you said, you're using such a small percentage of them. And there's like inherent bloat that comes with how to deal with all this stuff. So I think I'm a little bit less gung-ho than I was six months ago. I was going nuts, man. I was like...
So what was happening 6 months ago?
I mean, so I'll give you an example. Like I wanted to license Riverside and I was like, for my specific use case, which we're filming this on, and they wouldn't allow for specific things. So I'm like, all right, let's try to build my own media server. Let's replace Riverside. And that was a pretty big task, but it's also everything. It's like Asana, like I'm using that as a list structure. I don't need that anymore. Let's build a version of Asana that works for me. My financing, like I was on bench.co for my bookkeeping and it was just so redundant. And I'm like, LLMs could very easily index things. Let's build a service called Finch that handles that. For my like own ADHD kind of way of working, I built this thing called Rocket that keeps me focused. For like, I just started going on and building and building and building and building. And I think what's great about that process is you understand what's possible. What's also great about that process is you understand what really good and mature infrastructure is. And there really is there's certain things that you want to replace. And there's certain things that are like, I see some people replacing things and I'm kind of like, what are you doing? And that what are you doing comes from me trying to do it. So I've oscillated. Now I'm more interested in using a SaaS product that is what I would consider a modern stack, something that has like a CLI, an API, an MCP. Two of my favorite, most recently SaaS products are probably PostHog and Sentry.io.
Okay.
I just love those services and they're just working like really well for me. It's like, I'm not going to try to duplicate those. Like they've already done incredible work. And the truth is there's a big distinction between building something for myself and the people that I work with, which isn't a big infrastructure play, than trying to like replace a SaaS company, like deploying that across tens of thousands or hundreds of users. But, you know, the problem is like I'm nitty and I like everything needs to look a certain way and stuff like that. So I found it to be both really positive and also dangerous, which I'm sure a lot of people listening have done the same thing. Like you see the amount of work, effort, care it takes to really make something special. And it just has me now have more of an affinity for SaaS than just be like, oh, got them, you know?
So that's super fascinating. Like you before had this naive sense of like, oh, I can just build that or have my agents build it. And then when you started realizing like all the details that go into it and scaling it, you're humbled by it and realize it's not worth your time and attention.
Yeah.
But what it sounds like right now is that as long as a provider has a CLI, an API, or an MCP, it allows you to sort of customize the features you want specifically, or like have your agents handle it so you don't have to. Tell me more about why you look for products that have those points.
I mean, just for connectivity. So in a lot of like my own work, and everything's about consolidation, right? So consolidation of data, consolidation of tooling, consolidation of everything to give agents the capacity to do what I need. And it's like at the end of the day, all these products, they have a front end user interface. And like my goal is to not spend as much time in the interface as possible, but also I want it to look organized and good when I'm in it, right? Like I have a weird preference towards design. Like if a product is not well designed, I just won't use it. Like I can't look at it. That's my own weird kind of stuff. It doesn't apply to everybody, but I enjoy looking at like pretty things during my workday. And I enjoy, I notice every micro interaction. I notice like the copy, the spacing. That stuff means a lot to me. So when a service has something like that on the front end, and then their back end has, the right tooling, a good REST API, a good MCP, or even better, a CLI or something like that, I feel like I get best of both worlds.
Nice. And so right now, you said like you're really into PostHog and Sentry. How are you using them, and like what are you really excited about?
Yeah, so PostHog and Sentry. So for those of you, PostHog does a lot of things, but we use PostHog for first measuring the API spend of all of our LLMs via the API. So it's great on that. It does really good DOM-based recording. So you get like actual views, and it's really good at logging errors. So that's more on the front end side for us, front end and API. And then Sentry.io is more server side. I haven't gone this far yet, but I'm starting to get this far. You get these errors that, sometimes just some weird JavaScript something, or you don't know what it actually is, but it has all of the context, both the front end and back end context in one centralized area. And then problems could be fixed before I even wake up, right? So like that's really cool. And then also just the level of granularity I feel like both expose. It hasn't been like this searching for what's causing the problem. It's just been addressing it. So like what I'll do is like I have a complicated sort of product right now that involves like media servers and facial analysis and all this stuff. And there's a lot of moving parts. And just having users like walk through it for like a week, it exposes like all of these problems. And I sort of take a two-tiered approach. You got to be careful got to be really careful with this. Like you don't just want problem loop fix. Like that's dangerous because then your architecture can change without the right guardrails. So I have two things. Like if something is like a front end visual thing and it's a problem, it's like, just go ahead and change it. But I document all the logs, and then I say, based on all of the real-time application that we've been doing with this thing, is there something that I'm not considering? And then it sort of recommends bigger architectural shifts that are going to make the product even better. So it's just this like cool self loop. And I like PostHog. I like viewing the actual sessions. Like you get to watch people use your product and see where all those mistakes are. It just works. And like, come on, like installing this back in the day was like a pain in the neck. And now it's like, with the CLI, it's like, boom, it just does it. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. I recently set it up for a project myself, and they have it dialed in where their agent will set you up, or your agent will set it up like pretty seamlessly. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a seamless experience. I'm using it for like even small stuff, like when we deploy something to just 10 users. I'm like, all right, let's let it figure out all the bugs. And then I even try to like spin up agent. It doesn't work as good, but like, hey, site's deployed, spin up a bunch of agents, click on absolutely everything, interact the app like you're a human, and let's log before actual users get it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of pretty sweet. And I like this outer looper, that more of like longer time horizon, where do you do that on a weekly basis where you're just reviewing kind of like sessions that's in the week, and then you're kind of re-architecting or kind of trying to fix things?
All things that impact the user experience on a visual or like serious error, that will be repaired immediately. But I'm usually working on like a weekly cadence. Like, all right, let's take all the data from the week and let's make changes. And now like through that QA process, through one of them over the past like 2 to 3 months, it's like, all right, I know the decision is to move the media server because the way I set it up the first time wasn't enabled for this level of scale. I think it's when you're like QAing or testing things, I think it's more of like a creative thing than a technical thing. Like just get creative as possible. Like I was like, oh, well, what if 2,000 users sign up today and start using this. They'd be like, everything would break. Like, because you're only on like 4 gigs on the server, like it needs to go way higher. It's like, okay, so as we scale, how do we put things in place so we could automatically increase our server capacity as users come in instead of me overpaying now? And like
Yep.
just some of these like creative ways of thinking around things, I think are cool.
Nice. And then in terms of, you had said that you like were helping people set up PostHog or watching someone else set it up. You had mentioned that you also just run these sort of workshops and sessions. Like, can you tell me more about that? Of like who attends those sessions? What are you kind of educating people on?
Yeah, the workshops are pretty broad. So we do workshops with Tan, who I think was also on this podcast.
Mhm.
Me and Tan do them locally in Austin. We do like an AI builder, like introduction to AI builder workshop. I've been doing, and I do my own for companies, both engineering teams and also just people in every aspect of the organization. I think where a lot of organizations like where I deal with is my background at the nonverbal group was more in culture and people and all that. So it's like being able to have discussions, both technical and on the people side. And a lot of what I, you know, deal with is teaching people. It's not how to be like technical. It's like just how to think and how to interact. And one of the more useful things we did for like an engineering team is we did in design on the design functions of a lot of companies. They have this thing called design critiques where everybody gets together and they like to have a critique process. I have found that as a builder, for me personally, the best thing has been like builder critiques. So we all sit and nobody says anything. And for 20 minutes, somebody just opens up their workspace and starts building. And then we all take notes about like, oh, why'd you do this? Or why'd you do that? Or should you have thought of that? I have learned more in that than anything else because you're actually seeing workflows, which is I like a little bit more than the curated, like here are the top 7 or 8 tips. Because there's just sometimes I watch somebody and I'm just like, oh shit, like I'm an idiot. Like, why did I think of that? Like, you get actual real exposure to what they're doing. I'll give you an example. I use warp.dev still because I just like the interface and I set my sessions up and I have my whole process. And I walked through that. And then this guy, Sam, was like, not our Sam, a different Sam, was like, hey, Blake, like, why don't you just have a script that starts your sessions every day? And I'm like, why don't I have a script that starts it? And what's, the problem is that I even struggle with is like, there's so many things to optimize and there's so many things. So I've been like trying to stay away from like ideal workflow, because I feel like it's changing every couple of months, and focus more on like what I'm building and the speed to executing what I'm building. But I make a commitment to myself that like, I try to watch those things and just do 3 things. Like, oh, that was helpful. Like, and just focus on one thing, or else you just go in too many different directions. And
we're living in wild times right now where there's a new thing, multiple new things every day, right? And that are trying to help you build more or automate things. And like, you can't use all the tools because one, they're conflicting most of the time, but also it requires you to re-architect how you approach work. And if you constantly are re-architecting your setup, it usually is a slow on-ramp, but once you get into the mix, then you start humming. But I think that figuring out how often to like adjust your flows, but also what are you going to sort of bring in. And like you, I tried to set up some time on a weekly cadence to test new things and also see like what I'm going to implement or try for the week. Like I tried Herder last time and then realized like, oh, this was actually too much for me to manage. Like I actually would rather my like Claude Fable just run in shells. Like I really don't need it to see. Like originally I wanted to see like the codex being spun up and see everything. I was like, no, I actually don't want to. So yeah, it's just trial and error on that stuff. And most people are not going to do that. But in these experiments that you've done, like what are some new flows that you've kind of adopted? Like have you taken Aside for a spin, Aside.com, which is a new browser that has agentic flows, so you can just connect your subscriptions or use their subscription to like automate web interactions?
Yeah. So what I sort of do is I go through this process where like I have this thing where I have to hire a bunch of people on Upwork for this like medial task. They need to be people, they need to record themselves on video. And I need something to manage that process on Upwork, right? So
Mm-hmm.
usually what I'll start with is I'll hear about Aside. Thanks for sharing the new browser stack thing. I'll start in Fable. I'm a big fan of Fable. I'm just using it all the time. And I'm saying like, here's a scope. Here's what I'm doing. Let's try to put together some sort of lightweight eval of what we think is going to be the best for the product. And then I do it, I play with it, and then I'm done. Like, I'm like, okay, this is getting me 85% of the way because I'm a little obsessive. And sometimes I could spend so much time going from 85 to 95 that like I just waste my time. So I've been defaulting to the models as long as I provide the overarching context. It's like you make the decision. What do you think is going to be best? And that's how I'll do it. This weekend, I'm doing that exactly for the browser agents for the Upwork project. So I try not to, I was in the beginning, but it's this like agentic engineering shiny object syndrome that keeps occurring that I try to stay out of it. I try to be careful off X because then like I see a new tool and I'm like, oh, like I'm trying to constrain myself to 3 hours on the weekend for what upgrades I'm going to do. And then every month I'll spend a whole day like cleaning the Claude folder, restructuring my context. All that's been healthy for me, basically. Yeah.
Nice. And then so a lot of this stuff, from my understanding, is you have these like beefy workstations that you've set up. You're running multiple agents at a time. Can you kind of like go into what that looks like?
Yeah. So I have a lot of different jobs, right? But my main focus is stuff in computer vision that requires like a rig over here that's doing a lot of stuff that Fable's actually like managing. And typically, for the most part, I don't have a robust, I think people are really surprised by this. Like, I don't have a robust agent structure. Like, I'm more precise and it's more like I'm working across 6 projects and 6 clean warp.dev things at the same time. I tend to, I haven't had success in my opinion, and maybe it's my control issues or whatever, but I haven't been obsessed with like, here's a full brief, go build it over the course of 10 hours. I break everything down into modular phases, and I really believe in like component-based architecture. So usually like my days, I put in my calendar like three things I'm working on, and I'll focus on those 3 things. So I haven't been sort of as hands off. I want to get there, but I just feel like it's, I don't know, just like a preference. So my favorite agentic system is Claude Code inside of Terminal. Like that's my favorite thing. And then I'll do cron jobs for things and like I'll have things recur. But I feel like what happens right now is because there's so much information, I have seen people create systems that bombard them with information, which is I don't want to read a report on a Monday morning with all this shit. Like just give me the 3 things and text it to me kind of stuff. I've been playing around more with Hermes, but even that's been dangerous for me because I try to get things perfect. So most of the time, and I'm also cheap, so I don't like deploying things. I spend a lot on the API side for our customers, but like for me, I'll just go into Terminal and be like, hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. And I kind of lately have just been leaving my phone on remote and been doing a lot of stuff just through remote instead of, I tried Telegram and iMessage and then it goes down and it's not there yet. Like it's just not.
And so you'll use the Claude mobile app remote control feature.
Yeah.
Where it's like slash or slash RC or something like that. And then you'll be able to access it from your phone. And it's just that session that's on a machine running in your house.
Yeah. And that's been the most helpful instead of like, I used photon.so on the Hermes thing and I was like so happy. And then it broke like 4 times. And I'm like, what? I want direct access to my workflows. And then you spend time trying to figure it all out. And then it changes 3 months later. So I'm just like, let's wait for it to mature even further. And you remember, like I was staying away from OpenClaw and all that stuff because it's too much of a potential distraction. And the truth is, like I've seen a lot of people do some really cool things inside of it, but most of it, it's like, I could text message and create a calendar, or I could do research. I just rather do it inside of my little Claude Code terminal than have all the fancy things.
Yep. That makes sense. I think if it's not broken, you don't want to adjust or fix it. So it kind of works for you there. And then, so you have Claude managing, you have like these projects, and then are you using specific other tools to kind of go through the documents or the architecture? Like I remember you were doing some like reviewing some markdown files, or right
Yeah,
now
I
is it just
really
in?
like Lettera,
Uh-huh.
Lettera. I think it's in beta right now. That from Bear.
Uh-huh.
You know, another simple thing that this is like a
No, what?
simple hack that just came to me. I did it 2 weeks ago. You know, when you're like interacting and it gives you the link to whatever file, and sometimes the way it links, I just make it drop up on the other screen every file when it's done.
Okay.
So like if they finish a markdown or a spec, it immediately is opened. It saved me so much time, like finding things. Like they just pop up and I'm like, okay, next thing, next thing, next thing.
So you just tell you have that baked into your Claude
Yeah.
skill
I have
or Claude
yeah,
MD file?
yeah, throughout every project, when a document is done or an artifact is done, automatically open it.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just so it's like, oh, this is such a game changer, and it's like so silly, but I feel like those things are like really helpful.
Yeah, especially when you're doing a bunch of different things and you're then trying to figure it out. And I'm assuming you have like connected to a different monitor and you're like,
Yeah,
what
it just
screen is
comes
it
up
on?
on this one, so it's
Yeah.
like super super easy and like super yeah, I guess just like an easier fun sort of workflow. So like people will talk about all of these like really extensive multi-step workflow stuff and I'll be like that's cool, but that has to be maintained, right? Like where my little cute little so I look for like these little wins that make me happy like
Yeah.
on a daily basis. Like, ooh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I think that to me is like the niceties right now of software development is like you can build these kind of small wins, but that just make you don't even notice it. You have to be reminded by it because it just feels like so natural to you
Yeah,
at
like
this point.
just like I really love Agentation. Do you know that app that
No, say more. I don't know
so
what it is.
Agentation is just basically this beautiful little app that sits on top of your whatever you're building and you just highlight elements and then you can copy and paste it immediately to Claude for hyper precise things like 1 pixel should be zero point 0.5 or this should be the margin should be different or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, could I build something myself? I could do all that stuff, but what I can do is just build a simple thing of when I click the button on the copy version of that, it automatically pastes and enters to it. Like
Yeah.
there's just these easy ways of doing things. And I think it was Benji Taylor that did that. It was a phenomenal designer. So anything he releases, I love.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. I will link to that. And so that you like kind of connect to your project. And so it allows you to have that, or is it across your,
No, I
like
have
all
to
your
install, I
projects?
have like a slash agentation enter and it just installs it.
Got it. Yeah, that's super neat. Yeah, just creating that fidelity around feedback and between you and the agent is awesome. Those side of things. He also created the like the animations, and he also was messing around with some drawing thing I saw.
Oh, that was yeah, super cool. It was like the old fashioned paper app, I think it was called
Yep.
on the iPad. Like it's just I'm also like a really big connoisseur of good design on like X and stuff. Like I just love like and then what's so cool is you can like take that direction and be like, all right, I want to do it a little bit differently. And it really is the steal like an artist kind of era right now. And Fable has been phenomenal with design where Opus like 4.8 was not. It was frustrating, and Fable is just getting a lot of things right now.
Where are you finding your design inspiration from
So
right now?
I just go on X and I just like scroll, and then I find somebody who I'm like, ooh, like you have an eye, right? And then I just go add to bookmark design, and then like that weekend, I'll just look through all those people. Sometimes I'll reach out to them and be like, hey, you want to do this project with me? Blah 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 blah. But other times I'm just trying to like reverse engineer the elements, and like everybody uploads the videos, so they're like, okay. And listen, fine tuning things to perfection is like a world class designer can do. But some of this stuff, you're just like, I kind of like that thing for my own little personal project, like the way you
Yeah.
animate in right there. So like, let's create our version of that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really fun.
Nice. In terms of the various projects, like right now, which of them can you talk about? I know you spoke about the video stuff. Are there any other projects that you want to talk about?
I mean, right now, like there's the projects that I do for behavioral robotics and nonverbal groups. So we're building our own. It's not a model; it's a fitter. It's basically like how you explain it is it fits points to your face, so that we can measure exact smiles in the way that we do. So we have like the highest fidelity pipeline that turns video interactions and breaks them down. I can share my screen. So like this is basically these two people are having a conversation and our software breaks everything down in sort of a pipeline, all the smiles, all the movement and graphs, like smile dynamics and charts and everything. So like this is a perfect example of like what's actually why I like this day and age is because I'm going to make YouTube videos with this, right? Normally when I'm making YouTube videos breaking down people, you have to animate this. But I was like, oh, I could just make this button that does this and I can animate inside the actual app so that it'll be so much easier for me when I'm talking. So like if I have to talk about like the timeline and I want to focus on that, I can highlight it and be like, all right, let's look at their upper face movement. Let's look at this. Let's look at that. That saves so much cross-functional time because an editor doesn't have to do that.
Right.
So just like interesting ways of sort of making that all work. And the truth is this was all done in Xcode. So it uses Apple's Metal. So it's like, and I did this with Fable. So this is a good example of like evals, your own evals. Like I tried to build this like 6 times, like early versions of Opus 4.8, and it just couldn't do it. Fable was the first thing that was like, oh shit, like I actually built this. So
cool.
So this is like the kind of stuff that I could show you like all my products. So like I have a lot of various companies. So like I just made this. This is my app Finch that just like makes my expenses. So what's so cool about this is like Finch will audit every month and be like, let's look at infrastructure. Let's look at all the services that you're using. And then let's make recommendations on what we need to get away from. I saved like probably like 120K this year, like consolidating all these services. And then I can also do like, I have a bunch of different companies. So each of these companies has their own sort of thing. So I can do like tax summaries. I can't go into like all of this right now, but
don't do it.
It does a lot of stuff. And then like another example of stuff that I actually use is Rocket, which I built to replace Asana. So it's just my own sort of lightweight tool for things. And I always wanted to track like how long it takes me to do something. So I can click this and I know that I'm working on all of these things for this amount of time. And then what's cool is this has its own MCP. So I can go into Claude Code and be like, hey, we're working on the nonverbal group website. Like, let's start it. And it can move everything here. And then I mapped all my companies and created like a whole system for things.
Love it.
So like, this is the kind of things that like for me are like really honestly just like fun. Like I get like excited about, but at the end of the day, it's the ML stuff that really like makes a difference. And that's mostly me working with, I'll give you an example. Like I'm building, so we've got this big computer right here now. That's like my ML rig. I'm not a network. I don't know shit about like routers and I don't know anything about it. And it's so great that I'm just like talking to Fable all day and being like, okay, like we have to encrypt this entire computer. Like, how do I give you access to help me encrypt it? What passwords can you have? What passwords can you not have? Blah, 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 blah. And just learn. So I'm not one of these people. I was telling Tan this. I'm not one of these people that just like, hey, do it. I'm like, I want to learn. Like I'm obsessed with like actually still understanding things. Right. So I feel like my technical capacities have gotten so good because these areas, like I would have never have learned about Rust and how it can deal with memory requirements. And I don't know anything about that. Like, so, but you could be in this inquiry that makes you better. So I feel like you become a better builder if you're curious and just do a lot of stuff. And then you know like what's easy and what's not easy. And then you know your own evals and like all these different things.
And the evals are like you just have a sense of like, where do I stop on this project? Do you try again? Do you shelve a project or come back to it later or just recreate it? And every time a new model comes out, is that? will you find yourself doing?
Yeah. So and then sometimes there's random evals. So I'll give you an example. I was doing a workshop / consulting for this company, and the CEO, somebody made a t-shirt for the CEO, and they did it in OpenAI. They generated like a low poly image in OpenAI, and they give it to me. And they're like, we sent it to the printer. I'm like, you can't print this. Like it has to be vectorized, right? So I was like, there's no way in hell. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm like, let me just try. So I drop it into Claude and I say, I want you to fully vectorize this in Figma. It one-shotted it. Like, perfect. I was like, oh my God. Like, that's something. So you always got to like try, but I have my tasks like image, like VLM stuff and stuff like that, you just kind of know. And I just like to throw things at it. So like when a new model comes, I have my own stuff that I'm like, do all this stuff and let's benchmark it. And you get a feel for things. Cause evals are just kind of like bullshit. Like, it's not a real thing. Like, so I eval for my own workflows basically.
Nice. Yeah. Cause most evals are kind of, you're studying for the test thing where like, the answer. So or like directionally what they're going to test on the test. So versus the things that are out of band, the things that you personally care about. So yeah, very much so. Cool. Well, Blake, I feel like there's some other things like you take for granted. Like if you were to, like, what feels to you as being like the most futuristic right now experience that you have that other folks will only sort of experience, in a couple of years just because you're in it day in, day out and they're not?
I think the macro principle that everything is connectable or connected. I think that's something that just people still, even like hardcore AI builders, don't think about. Like, it's all data. It can all be integrated. It can all be streamed. And some of the the way that I've gotten crafty in connecting things has really made me like not stop. Like, it's something as simple as like, oh, this service doesn't have an API. It's like, oh, but they have a reporting and we can mouse around and get the report out. And then this office, when I was having issues, these two TVs behind me, they're the same TV. There was a remote. So like I take a picture, I try to turn it on. They both turn on. It drives me crazy. Right. So I was like, listen, pull my Amazon order, find these TVs and tell me if there's a way around it. It's like, oh yeah, you can actually use the Samsung API and we can just develop an interface to turn on your TVs. And I was like, so cool. So I think the connectivity piece is the biggest thing. And then also just because it's my area, like the physical AI stuff, like I don't think people understand where that's truly going to be from now. Like just the stuff that I'm able to do right now is absurd.
Where, like, can you say more about that stuff?
So it's kind of like, I'll use my use case. So we like measure the human body and human face to the most highest fidelity, right? So for example, like we have a system called Cheshire that's indexing smiles, like how someone smiles, right? And it's like, I've watched footage and I can have my own insights into the footage, but this thing is becoming so precise where it's like your smile timing is 30% different when you're talking about family topics. There might be some source or reason on why it's your family and so on. Like, it's just kind of like, quite frankly, scary. And like my father passed from ALS like 2 or 3 years ago. And, there were signs in his face earlier on that he had that. And it's like, so from a level of diagnostics, like a lot of motor neuron type diseases or anything like Bell's palsy, anything that originates in the face, like I'll be able to, with our stuff, like identify. So like, imagine this, like imagine you have a robot in your house 5 years from now that, you buy it, you scan your face, you do all this stuff, and it starts to learn pattern recognition and learn your norms and your averages and starts to make deductions the same way like a human would and give that level of feedback. Like that's what I'm hoping to build, but like that's what's coming. Like right now LLMs are, really incredible technology, but they probably do have a ceiling at some point, right? Like I don't think it's going to lead to AI. I mean, something else might, or super intelligence. I think we probably already have AGI. I don't know. All these terms I don't even like talking about. But once these things start interacting with the physical world, and once you start to get these loops where these structures are starting to build themselves, like just think about this. I could spin up CAD right now or I can model out my whole house. Imagine if I had 3 robots that can then go build the house. But I think that's the 10-year future, is that these things are everywhere and they're integrated and connected to everything. So right now, the gap is we don't have the physical dexterity or connection. But think about it. Once that breaks, then we're talking about connection everywhere. Like, what prevents a robot from going right now, be like, hey, I want to show this thing to you. Hey, do me a favor, go get it. And it knows exactly where to get it because it has the same context and memory systems that the LMs have, but it has physical dexterity and ability to parse the room. I think we're going to live to see that. It's exciting and destabilizing and scary and cool. And I don't know how to think about it. I'm a technologist, so I love it, but I could see how this could be so damaging. And I don't think there's anything that's going to stop except for maybe some massive recession that will stop that inflection point. Like, that's the direction we're going.
I think that the robotics are sort of not here yet, right?
No.
I think that the assumption is that they will be if you can manufacture them at scale and figure out how to get there. But once you're there, but I would say the things that you're operating now, that what I hear you say is, you don't stop when you have problems. Like, if something comes up that has some digital component to it or technological component, you try to connect it together.
Yeah.
So like, you're connecting this out to your Amazon cart, your purchase order, you find the exact thing, then it's connected to that physical object, which is still software. It runs on software. And then you connect that software to the software on your machine, and now you have a better interface. So basically, it kind of goes back to what you were saying in the beginning, which is you only like to use things that you can connect to and in any which way you want. And so right now, what I hear is more people will live in a world where they'll be connected to more software, whether they're the ones orchestrating it or the machines and robots are orchestrating that software.
Yeah, I think what'll happen is right now we're having to tweak to get those connections. But I think as the technology progresses, there will be no tweaking. It'll just all be interconnected.
Got it. Because it's always self-improving.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, well, it's not maybe not self-improving, but self-recognizing. Like an example, like if I was able to turn on every single security camera in my house, and then it can go online and look at all the products in the house and then say, oh, here's how we can connect all those. And it had access to all logins. It could start doing IoT home stuff at scale that was never possible. And you don't have to tinker. You don't have to write a Python file to do a Python script to do that. You don't have to, it just does it. Like, it's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have a pretty dumb house, I would say. I don't have like a smart house. I would say that maybe the only thing I have is like a Nest, but that to me feels pretty dumb living in San Francisco just because I don't really adjust the temperatures that much. But yeah, I can see it. I think that people are starting to hack together a bunch of like more hardware. I see on X, like there's the SP32, I think, like models, like these little hardware devices that people are starting to hack with. So yeah, I totally see that being more distributed.
And also just the ability to deal with your hardware right now. Like, I would have had 5 years ago, if I bought this rig I just got, I wouldn't know how to set it up. I'm a Mac user.
Yeah.
I don't know the first thing about and it's just like, what do I do? It's like, you buy this, and this, you connect this to this, and I got it. But then in that process, you're learning, and it's just such a cool time. It's like it's the democratization of all these technical skills that were just completely out of reach, right? And now anybody with enough curiosity or grit can just get access to it. It's like so much fun.
That's awesome. And that's the biggest thing is like, if you have Claude or Chat, whatever it is, that is, and you just point it at the things you want, it has all the information it needs right now. It has all the manuals. You don't need to read any of it.
I know.
It takes care of it for you.
That's also one thing I say. I'm always like, don't go off your training data. Find manuals, find this, find that before doing anything. Now, what's interesting is if you use Chat, like this happens all the time with like movies. Like I asked ChatGPT, like, oh, what movie is out or what this?
Okay.
And it gives me the wrong data. So I'm always having to put in like, don't use any of your actual data. Like I want you to find the actual root source. And then that's been helpful.
Oh, interesting. So rather you want it to use like
search
actual
capacities.
data
Yeah,
instead of like, still hallucinating, the hallucination problem where it's still trying to remember everything from its training data.
Exactly.
And instead you're like, no, search for it first and give it access to it.
Yeah. Search for it, find it, give me access and figure it out. And now what the joke is, like, there's no reason to have manuals anymore.
Yeah.
So you get this, new thing and it's manual, just like toss it out and I know it's online somewhere. Like it's.
Yeah. What I would do is just take the photos of it and just upload that to your LLM.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't even, I'm
You
too
didn't bother.
lazy. I'm not taking photos of anything. I'm just going to be like, hey, or also like just there's all these stupid things. Like, for example, my washer and dryer is new, but
Okay.
every fourth rinse, the clothes smell like bad. And
Okay.
for the love of me, I can't figure out what it is. So like I take pictures of all the washers and dryers. I'm like, walk me through this. Let's fix this. And it starts going into crazy extrapolation. Like, Blake, it might be the fat. And what it found was that I was using too much of the laundry detergent I had.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, so instead of you should not pull full, put in small, buy this, run the test. My clothes have been clean ever since. It's like, because it's predicting on so much information that like,
yeah,
I don't think a world-class machine washer person would have been able to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's all those like fun little day-to-day type things. And like for workouts, like I was bench pressing last week and I just heard a loud pop and I got really dizzy and I was like, what the hell was that? And it felt like it was in my chest, but it was in my arm. I just start loading everything into ChatGPT. And then it's like, Blake, don't go back to the gym today. Like you need another 2 days. It's just so helpful.
How's your shoulder? You okay?
It's much better right now. But I was like, hey, can I go to the gym? He's like, I strongly advise against.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, I'll wait. And then also like, that's my next little thing that I suggest everybody does. Well, I have a lot of lab work. I have maybe 20 lab tests over the last 10 years. I have like DEXA scans. I'm going to get the full DNA sequencing. And I've got some weird health stuff right now. Like I have this weird thing with heat where my hands swell that no doctor has been able to really figure out what it is. I'm going to drop it into Fable and be like, here's all my data. What do you think it is?
Yeah.
You get like a world-class research team that can help you.
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah. Good luck with that. I think that's been since the beginning, I guess maybe it was like GPT-4. I've been running kind of my own evals on health data and stuff around importing that and importing my DNA and finding stuff and like adjusting based on new studies. Cause I'll actually send you, there's a MCP that I use that searches all the relevant research papers based on queries and stuff. It's super, super fascinating where, like you said, we have these deep experts and we're just starting to like rewrap our brain around like, what does that mean when you have this expertise on demand and just where kind of human intelligence kind of lacks just because of time and capacity. Like you go to a doctor, they're with you for 15, 30 minutes, and that's about it.
That's it.
So you can have these running all day.
On the research thing, let me show you. So this is probably like one of my favorite things. So I built this thing called the academic holocron. It's from Star Wars, basically. But basically what it is I don't really use this interface that much. It's just visualizing it. But it connects to like 14 public APIs to find studies. And it basically centralizes all the PDF and all the documents. But really what it does is it allows me to actually have like real conversation. So I'm doing a like 2-hour video on the difference between introversion and extroversion. So I look at specific claims and then I create like a corpus and then I interact with the corpus. So like what were the claims? What were the studies that backed up the claim? And then I export like this full report for myself of like what actually I need. Then I read and then I'm interacting it and go back and forth. And then I read the studies. But like, Michael, like when I was in grad school, like I used to have to go to like EBSCOhost and search for these things. Like it's just utterly insane. Oh, and I found this really cool research hack. So to make sure that I have full coverage, I call it reference hijacking.
Okay.
So basically, like every study that I get from a PDF, I extract every reference from that study to make sure what's the full coverage on a topic. Because, you're going to get abstracts and you're going to get DOI-IDs and all doc IDs and all that stuff, but you're not going to get the full sort of really understanding. So then it makes a list of like, oh, you only have like 68% coverage. You need 32% more of these studies. And then I didn't do this because I have access to the academic sites, but I was like, wait, if I was a researcher, I could just find the name and email. Because if you email a professor and you'll be like, hey, I want to read your study, they'll send you the PDF. Most of the time. I was like, I could bulk do that if I wanted to. So there's like a couple, like 3 or 4 studies that I don't think they were studies. It found like it were dissertations and they were like on the university's website. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like I can get, so it's just so cool. Like, so my research, I used to have like 6 or 7 people doing this kind of stuff for me. And now I get to interact with the data the way that I love it.
That's super fascinating. So you have this structure, and is it like a skill or like a rule system?
Its own app. It's its own app. Its own system. It has its own MCP, so I can go into it and connect. So this is my master thing. Everything I build. If I'm doing something over and over again, I give it a CLI. I give it an MCP, so they can interact with each other.
Got it.
So basically,
so even your own internal tools. I think that's kind of like a good. You started off talking about like how SaaS products need to have MCPs and CLIs, but you're saying even for your personal software that you're using, you make sure to have MCPs and CLIs for your own tooling.
Because then if they have MCPs and CLIs, what if I want to post something on LinkedIn, but I want to reference those 3 studies? I'm like, hey, find the 3 studies that were done on introversion. I think it was in Russia or something like that. And it's like, boom, you mean this? And the reason why I like operating within my constraints is there's no hallucination. Because it's tooling calls. So I don't trust it for research. Like I've had a bunch of times where things have been made up, especially when doing with academia. It's good 98% of the time, but 2% it's not. So it's only allowed to reference and identify root source information that lives on my computer. And then like another thing I made is something called like Abstract 2.0. Like I always hated abstracts. I'm like I want to do my thing. So for basically like 3 cents a study, I could have it read the entire study and make a more robust abstract that I like.
Okay.
And then index all those abstracts so that I know what's actually in the study. And then I could do like my own beginnings or the beginning hard work of like a meta-analysis.
So it's creating based on some sort of like framework that you have, it's creating your own abstract.
Yeah, like I like my own, like how I grade a study. Like it's like social psychology and it's tricky, right? Like small sample size, this. And they're not putting all that in the abstract because the abstract's kind of like a preview. So they're burying the lead. So I want my own little abstract. And it's like, that would have been impossible. That would have been like a 9-month project and having all these interns read things. And now it's just like done. It's so cool.
Yeah. So you have basically interns on demand.
Yeah.
Working for you. So like how much of that experience, like because you had experience managing interns, managing teams, does it make it easier for you than like people who haven't?
100%.
Do you think?
Like if I would have never been able to build this research system, if I haven't been doing research for the last like 20 years, it wouldn't have been like, you don't know what to tell it, what to look for, what to think about. Like that's why I really have enjoyed working with and talking with people that have like cross-disciplinary context. Like people that have done a lot of different things because they look at problem sets not through one lens. They look at it through multiple different lenses. So it's like I'm looking at it through research, through marketing, through my coursework, through academic, and that helps me mold the model into getting an output that I want.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Blake, where can people learn more about your projects, stuff about you if they want to follow up?
nonverbalgroup.com/newsletter. I do a newsletter every Monday. Been doing it for the last like 8 years or something like that. So I talk about people skills, AI, ton of stuff.
Does your newsletter have an MCP?
No, it should.
Time to get one. Otherwise, I'm gonna have my agent create one.
That's a good idea. Like an MC where you can pull any. That'd be
awesome.
actually pretty cool.
Well, thanks, Blake. Really appreciate you taking the
Thank
time
you.
to chat. No problem. Have a good one.